I first noticed a change in Marie 2 months ago, in the small details that only someone in love would catch. She and I had been together for a year, long enough that I had memorized the easy rhythm of her laughter and the warmth of her hand in mine. But as summer turned to autumn, something in that rhythm faltered. Marie grew distant and distracted, her bright smiles now edged with an odd flicker of hesitation. In quiet moments, I felt her drifting away, like a shadow pulling back at dusk. At first, I told myself that everyone goes through phases. Marie had a demanding job and a close-knit circle of friends. Maybe she was simply busy or stressed. Yet the excuses I made for her couldn't explain the cold absence I felt on nights we used to spend together. Marie started canceling our regular Friday movie nights, saying her girlfriends needed her or that an old friend was visiting spontaneously. Each time, she texted me assurances. "Don't worry, love, it's just a girls' night." And I believed her, or tried to. But an uneasy feeling had already nestled in the pit of my stomach. When we did see each other, Marie's phone became a barrier between us. She guarded it with a newfound vigilance, always tilting the screen away or stepping into another room to answer a call. One evening, as we sat on her couch in what should have been a comfortable silence, a message lit up her phone. In the split second before she snatched it up, I glimpsed a heart emoji and a name I didn't recognize. Her face flushed as she mumbled something about it being just Sarah from work, but the way she avoided my eyes told a different story. The air between us filled with things unsaid, my questions piling up behind clenched teeth. Over the following weeks, my doubt festered into quiet dread. Little inconsistencies began to surface, each one a pinprick to my trust. Marie mentioned a weekend outing to the lake with her girlfriends, describing sunny picnics and laughter under open skies. But when I casually asked one of those friends about the trip a few days later, I was met with a puzzled look. There had been no lake outing. Instead of confronting Marie immediately, I swallowed my suspicions and gave her a chance to explain on her own. She never did. Sleep started to elude me as my mind replayed every interaction we had, searching for clues. I remembered how Marie's voice used to light up whenever we planned our day, but now her tone was often flat, almost rehearsed when she told me her plans. On a Saturday, she claimed she was having an all-night movie marathon with her best friend Lena. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, imagining her tucked in a blanket on Lena's sofa, but an unease gnawed at me. In the dead of night, I found myself scrolling social media, only to see Lena posting photos from a family dinner in another city. Marie wasn't with her at all. My heart pounded as realization crept closer. If not with Lena, where was Marie? Who was she really with? A cold sweat broke out on my skin when an ugly answer emerged. She might be with another man. I tried to reject the thought. Marie would never, would she? We had always promised honesty. Yet with each lie I uncovered, another piece of evidence fell into place. I noticed she'd started wearing a new perfume on those girls' nights, a musky scent that wasn't her usual light floral. Once she came home with her hair tousled and a faint bruise on her neck, laughing it off as an accident from goofing around with the girls. I wanted desperately to believe her, but doubt was twisting into certainty. Every time she left the house, I felt a tightness in my chest, as if my heart knew what my mind refused to accept. Late one evening, on a night Marie was supposedly out with her girlfriends again, I sat alone in our dimly lit living room. The television murmured unwatched, and the dinner I'd cooked lay cold on the table. I remember checking the time repeatedly, each minute feeding my anxiety. The silence was heavy, broken only by the occasional chirp of crickets outside. That's when my phone screen lit up with Marie's name. My stomach flipped as I answered. Marie? The word barely left my mouth before I heard her sobbing on the other end. Her breaths were ragged, panicked. I shot to my feet, my heart thundering. David, she gasped my name, her voice fractured by tears. Something terrible happened. I grabbed my keys on instinct, already moving towards the door. What happened? Where are you? I demanded, trying to keep my voice calm even as fear spiked through me. Her words came out in heaving gulps. I'm in the woods. By Ridgeview Trail. I was walking, and this guy just... She broke off into a sob that shattered what was left of my composure. I knew that trail. It was a secluded path outside town. What was she doing out there alone at night? I'm coming to you. Just hold on, I said, rushing to my car. But as I fumbled with the lock, Marie continued hastily, a tremble in her voice that stopped me cold. He attacked me, David, she cried. He assaulted me. I managed to push him off and run. I don't know what to do. Her voice cracked, each word laced with terror and grief. A wave of nausea rolled through me. I clenched the phone tighter, my knuckles white. Are you hurt? Are you safe now? My throat was dry, and my tongue was heavy with horror at what she described. A part of me was wholly engaged with making sure she was okay, already scanning my mental map of the woods, picturing the turnoffs, and deciding where I'd find her. But another part of me, dark and quiet, registered something else she'd said. She went on, sniffling and choking on tears. I shouldn't have come here. I thought I knew him. I just wanted to talk. But then, oh God, I told him to stop, and he wouldn't. Her admission hung in the air like a dagger. I thought I knew him. The world seemed to tilt. I stopped in my tracks, standing beside my car in the cool night air. A street lamp overhead cast long shadows across the pavement, as her words echoed in my ears. What do you mean you knew him? I asked slowly, dread curling around my heart. Marie, why were you out there with this guy? You said you were with your friends tonight. There was a long, agonizing pause. I could hear her breathing, the effort to stifle sobs. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. I'm so sorry, David, she whispered. I lied. I wasn't with them. I came out here to meet him. She could not even say his name through her guilt and fear. It was just supposed to be, I don't know, fun. I didn't want it to go this far. The ground felt like it opened beneath me. My mind went blank, then flashed hot with understanding. These 2 months of agony, the late nights, the secrecy, it all came to this. Marie had been meeting another man. The revelation felt like a physical blow. My heart froze as her words sank in, each one a fresh cut. She had initiated this. She sought him out behind my back. You came to meet him, I repeated numbly. I couldn't even form it as a question. My voice sounded distant to my own ears, swallowed by the empty night around me. David, please, she cried. I made a mistake, a horrible mistake. But right now, I'm scared. He's still out here somewhere. I need you. Please, I'm sorry. My hand shook, the phone slick in my sweaty grip. I felt simultaneously like crying and screaming. A whirlwind of anguish, anger, and confusion. I wanted to be the man who would rush to protect her without a second thought. That's what love is supposed to do. But hearing her admit her betrayal poisoned that instinct. My every muscle tightened, conflicting impulses warring inside me. I could hear her pleading, but I stood paralyzed, the weight of her infidelity pinning me in place. She was saying something, her voice frantic. Understand if you hate me. I know I hurt you, but please don't hang up. I don't know who else to call. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. In the background of her call, I heard the night, the chorus of crickets, her ragged breaths, maybe a distant rustle of leaves, and I pictured her alone among dark trees, with a monster lurking somewhere near. The thought should have spurred me into action, yet I was numb. My silence stretched on, heavy and cold. David. Marie's voice was fragile, coated in fear and remorse. She was waiting for me to tell her I was on my way, that I'd fix everything. But the words wouldn't come. At that moment, I felt something inside me break. Without a word, I pulled the phone away from my ear. Her voice crackled, tinny and distant. My name again, a desperate question. I stared at the glowing screen for a second that felt like forever. Then, with a hollow click, I ended the call. The quiet that followed was immense. I stood there under the street lamp, phone still in my hand, and the call screen now empty. My heart hammered in my chest, sending blood roaring in my ears. What had I just done? I had left Marie crying in the dark, betrayed and hurt by that man, and now by me too, perhaps. A part of me screamed to call her back, to get in the car and find her, to be the support she needed, but I couldn't move. It was as if hanging up had severed more than the call. It had severed the last thread holding me together. I sank onto the curb by my car, the night air cold against the sweat on my skin. My mind raced and stalled all at once. She cheated on me. The words blazed through me, sending a fresh surge of pain. And she was assaulted. That thought cut deep as well, stirring both protective fury and agony. I wanted to hunt down the man who hurt her and make him suffer for what he did. The image of someone laying hands on Marie against her will filled me with rage. Yet the image of her willingly laying in that man's arms earlier that night filled me with despair. I pressed the heels of my palms to my eyes, trying to hold back burning tears. It was all too much, too contradictory. I didn't know how to feel or what to do next. Minutes or hours might have passed while I sat there under the pale glow of that streetlight. When I finally stood, legs stiff and trembling, I felt drained. I walked back inside the house on autopilot. The living room was just as I left it, TV murmuring, plates with untouched food, an empty wine glass meant for her. The normalcy of it all felt cruel, given how my world had just imploded. I turned off the TV, and in the sudden silence, my thoughts rang loud. She lied, and I wasn't there when she needed me. I slumped onto the couch, head in my hands. My phone buzzed, startling me in the quiet. Then it buzzed again and again. I hesitated before looking, my chest tight. There were several text messages and a missed call, not from Marie, but from her friends. Word had spread quickly. One message glared up at me. "How could you hang up on her? She was hurt and scared, you heartless jerk." Another from a different friend. "What kind of boyfriend leaves his girl stranded after something like that? You're disgusting." The missed call was from Lena, and almost immediately, the phone buzzed with another incoming call. I let it ring. I couldn't face them. They didn't know the whole story. As far as they knew, Marie was an innocent victim, and I had callously abandoned her in her worst moment. In their eyes, I was a monster. My hands shook with indignation and anguish as I tossed the phone aside. It skittered across the coffee table and thumped onto the rug, still lighting up periodically with new accusations from her friends. They had every right to be furious given what they believed. I stared at the ceiling, teeth clenched. Should I tell them? Should I shout to the world about Marie's betrayal so they'd understand why I froze? The idea sickened me. Whatever she had done to me, she didn't deserve what that man did to her. I wouldn't cheapen her trauma by using it as gossip to vindicate myself. A raw sob built in my throat, and I swallowed it down hard. I realized I was crying anyway. Hot tears edged down the sides of my face. I curled forward, pressing my forehead to my fists as a silent cry racked through me. In the span of one phone call, I'd lost the woman I loved and also failed her. There was no going back to how things were before tonight. The thought of her infidelity was like poison in my veins, yet the idea of her pain stirred every protective instinct I had. I hated that I still cared so much, but love doesn't turn off in an instant, no matter how deep the betrayal. That night crawled by at an agonizing pace. Eventually, the buzzing phone fell silent as her friends gave up, or the small hours of morning turned to midnight. I found myself standing at the window, gazing out at nothing. I wondered if Marie was safe now, if one of her friends had found her or if she had made it home. I pictured her huddled somewhere in the dark, shivering and alone, and my chest ached with a mix of hurt and guilt. I nearly called her a dozen times, but each time I stopped before the call could connect. What would I even say? "Sorry," I hung up, "but I know you cheated." The words tasted bitter. Instead, I remained in limbo, neither reaching out nor truly letting go as the night slowly yielded to a bleak, gray dawn. Sunlight was creeping through the blinds when a soft knock came at my door. I had not slept at all. I was still on the couch, hollow-eyed and exhausted, when I heard it. My heart lurched. Somehow, I knew it was Marie even before I opened the door. I hesitated, hand hovering above the knob. Part of me didn't want to see her face. I wasn't sure if I'd react with anger or dissolve into tears. But I needed answers, and perhaps she did too. Steeling myself, I unlocked the door and pulled it open. Marie stood on the doorstep, arms wrapped around herself. The early morning light fell on her, revealing a bruise high on her cheekbone and scratches on her neck. Her eyes were red-rimmed and swollen from crying. Seeing her like that sent a jolt of pain through me. I had to fight the urge to reach out and hug her. Instead, I gripped the door tighter and said nothing. "David," she said, voice raw and barely audible. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside silently, and Marie walked past me into the living room. She glanced at the untouched dinner on the table, the wine glass, and the phone lying on the rug with its dead screen. A faint shudder went through her. She didn't sit, and neither did I. We stood a few feet apart in the morning quiet, both unsure how to begin. It was Marie who spoke first. I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry. For everything." Her lower lip trembled. "I know I hurt you, and I know you might not care to hear why, but I need to explain." I remained silent, jaw tight. Up close, I could see how pale she was, how her hands shook as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. There was dried mud on her jeans and a tear in her jacket, stark evidence of her night. Proof that she truly had been attacked. My eyes lingered on the bruise on her face. She noticed, touching it gingerly. "He's in police custody," she said softly. "One of my friends called the police after I got to the road. They caught him trying to leave the woods." She swallowed hard. "I spent the night at the hospital, talking to police, and thinking about what I've done to you." I exhaled, not realizing I'd been holding my breath. Relief that the man was caught mingled with the swirl of my other emotions. At least he couldn't hurt her or anyone else now. "I'm glad they caught him," I said quietly. It was the first thing I'd allowed myself to say, and my voice betrayed my exhaustion and hurt. Marie nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "David, I was wrong to meet him. I was wrong to lie to you. There's no excuse, but I need you to know it wasn't because of you. You've been nothing but good to me." Her voice cracked. "I was just selfish and stupid. I liked the attention he gave me. I thought it would be harmless flirtation, something exciting. But I never meant for it to go so far. Last night," she broke off, choking on a sob. "Last night I realized how horribly I messed up in more ways than one." My eyes burned, tears threatening again. I struggled to maintain my composure. "A harmless flirtation?" I repeated bitterly. The words tasted like iron on my tongue. Lying to me for weeks, meeting him behind my back, was that just harmless fun to you? She winced, tears spilling over her cheeks. "No, you're right. It wasn't harmless. It was cruel. I betrayed your trust." Her admission came out in a whisper. I raked a hand through my hair, turning away for a moment. Hearing her say it brought a hollow ache to my chest. I had imagined this confrontation so many times during those sleepless hours. Sometimes I yelled, sometimes I broke down. Now, face to face, I just felt empty. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She took a tentative step closer, though she still kept some distance. "It wasn't about you not being enough. I was, restless? I can't even justify it. Maybe I was scared of how serious we were getting and I sabotaged it. Maybe I was flattered that someone else showed interest and I made a horrible choice. I really don't know. I only know that I regret it. If I could undo these last 2 months, if I could take away the pain I caused you and erase him from my life, I would." Silence fell between us, broken only by the ticking of the clock on the wall. I believed that she was remorseful. Her agony was evident. But her regret didn't erase what had happened. Nothing could. "You broke us," I finally said, voice hollow. My eyes locked onto hers, and she flinched at the blunt truth in my words. "You had my heart, Marie. I would have done anything for you. And last night, even after everything, Part of me still wanted to run into those woods to save you, but I just couldn't. I froze. Because the whole time you were crying for help, all I could think was, this is the man she's been with behind my back. My throat tightened. Do you understand how that tore me apart? Fresh tears coursed down her face. I do, she whispered. And I am so sorry. Sorry. The word hung in the space between us, insufficient but there. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to gather the strength to get through this. When I opened them again, Marie had sunk onto the edge of the couch, her face in her hands. She wept quietly, each sob a testament to her guilt and pain. I remained standing. I felt like if I sat beside her, I might weaken, and a part of me was terrified of forgiving her too easily. My trust was shattered, and no amount of apology would sweep those pieces back together. After a long while, her crying subsided into sniffles. She looked up at me, eyes pleading. I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know the truth, all of it, whatever you decide. I accept it. You don't have to ever speak to me again after today if that's what you want. I'll live with that. I just didn't want to leave things the way they were last night without you knowing how sorry I am. I studied her. This woman I had loved so deeply for a year, who now seemed like a stranger wearing Marie's face, broken and remorseful. I could still see traces of the person I fell in love with in the slope of her shoulders, in the way her fingers nervously fidgeted with the hem of her jacket. But those traces were obscured by the events of the night, by lies and infidelity and pain. I can't just pretend none of it happened, I said, each word heavy. Every time I look at you now, I'll remember the lies, the nights you never came home to me, and that phone call, hearing you in danger and realizing why you were there. My voice shook despite my efforts to steady it. I'm angry, Marie. Angry and hurt, and lost. What that man did to you is unforgivable, and I'm grateful he's behind bars. But what you did to me, that cuts deep too. She nodded, closing her eyes as if to absorb the hurt she had caused. I know, she whispered. I took a slow breath, feeling both drained and oddly calm now that everything was in the open. The slow burning suspense of the last 2 months had finally erupted into a conflagration of truth. There was a twisted relief in no longer wondering or second-guessing. The truth sat between us, ugly and undeniable. Marie stood unsteady on her feet. I'll go, she said softly. I won't trouble you anymore. If you ever want to talk again, or if there's any chance to fix this, you know how to reach me. But if not, I understand. She wiped at her cheeks, inhaling to brace herself. She took a step toward me as if expecting a final hug or word. I didn't move. I couldn't. I felt both our hearts breaking in that single moment. Seeing that, she gave a slight, sorrowful nod and walked to the door. I followed, more out of habit than intention, watching her silhouette in the morning light. With the door open, she paused on the threshold. Please take care of yourself, David, she murmured. You didn't deserve any of this. Marie turned one last time, her eyes searching mine. In them I saw a desperate hope mingled with despair, an unspoken plea for something, forgiveness, or maybe just acknowledgement of what we once had. I managed a faint nod, the only parting gift I could offer. Then she was gone. I closed the door gently, the latch clicking into place with an eerie finality. In the silence that followed, I stood alone in the foyer, the weight of everything settling onto my shoulders. It was over. The love, the lies, the fear, the hope, all of it had led to this quiet, empty moment. I walked to the window and watched Marie's figure recede down the sidewalk. She looked so small and fragile, and for an instant I had the urge to run after her, to tell her we'd find a way through this. But I remained where I was. Some betrayals cut too deep to mend. As she disappeared from sight, I let the curtain fall back into place. The morning sun continued its slow rise, indifferent to the heartbreak in its light. I realized I was trembling. In the span of a night, my life had changed irrevocably. The truth was out, the affair exposed, her betrayal laid bare for me to confront. There were no more secrets, no more suspicions eating at me from the inside. There was only the reality I had to live with now. I sank onto the couch where Marie had sat moments before, running a hand over the spot as if feeling the ghost of her warmth. A single tear tracked down my face, and I did nothing to wipe it away. It was strangely quiet. Even the birds outside seemed to hush, as if the weight of this final truth had subdued the world. In that stillness, I understood that nothing would ever be the same. The slow-burning dread of the past months had exploded into a fire that burned everything down. Our trust, our future, our love. All that remained was the scorched truth. And in that truth, betrayal stood exposed, unmistakable, and stark.